Welcome, everyone. We got today's May 9th, season 3, episode 4, and away we go. If we could show tonight's agenda, we have garden updates, common ground. I'll show mine soon. Not too much going on. Bills, Patricia, seedlings, Lenny's grow lights, some announcements and questions and answers. And I'm sure we have a lot of questions because we're getting ready to really start ramping up now. All right, so we'll start with, again, sorry, I just had COVID, so, and the weather's been pretty horrible every time I'm planning on going to the garden. So it's not too updated. But as we, first picture I show, we have our little peas coming up. This is about a week or so ago. No, maybe 2 weeks ago. So there are more since then. This is the one we planted with the elementary school. So they're all around the garden and they are coming up. So that's exciting. And that's where we finally put our poster up, which is a very beautiful poster. And we stained the fence. We're staining the fence. So, you know, it's starting to look prettier. And we had some bulbs that one of our members, Ash, put in at the end of last year that they're coming up.
Nice.
I don't know. Someone might know what they are. I'm not too good with bulb identification.
Daffodils.
Daffodils. There they go. Beautiful. And if you want to go to the next slides, please. And these, you know, I could say I have a lot of seedlings. My tomato seedlings doing very well, coming along. And again, this is a pretty not a great picture. I put kale in, rainbow chard, broccoli. I mean, they're coming in nicely. Yeah, I'm not the best photographer, but they are coming in well. You know, we already put carrots in, and this is stuff we had from last year. The garlic is coming up really nicely, as you can see. We had scallions from last year also came in, and sage overwintered, and strawberries are coming up. We put like 20-30 strawberries last year, so hopefully they'll, you know, I like to get a lot of strawberries. They're like a little ground cover. But I put radishes in and spinach, and like it really didn't come up. I'm very shocked because usually radishes always come up. So that was a disappointment. I don't know why they didn't come up, but that was annoying. And you can see this is just a little example of our little moat, you know, dealing with the high water table. So I kind of try to make a little trench that would hopefully drain the water into, I don't know if you see at the end, those rocks formation, that's like a big drainage ditch. So that's something we really want to work on this season to kind of make a little, you know, obviously make it go down lower, and that every time we get water in the outside area of the garden, it will hopefully drain into that ditch. That would be
So
the idea.
are you standing like at the top of a rise and it's flowing down in toward the rocks? Is that what we're saying?
Well, it was flowing, and you know, but then it gets a little caught up. Yeah, I definitely need to get a little more of someone to help me professionally with a little more, you know, downgrade. You know, I was just kind of digging with a shovel, and I don't know exactly how much, if I am lower, but it was going at one point. It was pouring, but then I went back and it kind of stagnated. So I would like to definitely improve that flow a lot, and, you know, hopefully just drain all the extra water out. And I don't know if I have any more pictures or not. We have a train I see passing.
No.
Oh yeah, and sorry, I thought I did take, you know, we have a pawpaws coming in very nicely, and plum, cherry, and persimmons. I mean, they look, I'm going to give it a little bit longer. They're not dead, but they're not growing. So I have to see. I got them from Black Creek Farm. This is a guy on Eric. I'm not even gonna try to say his name, Schnellenberger or something. He's great, and he donated a lot of great stuff last year. And I did try. I put groundnuts in, Michelle, but they have not. I don't know. I put them in last fall. I have not seen them come up. So
mine either.
Oh, are they not coming up? They usually take longer, or they're just not coming up at all?
Mine haven't come up at all.
Oh no! And but they did come up last year, right?
I put them in last year. Yeah,
Oh.
and they grew, but nothing this year yet.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'll wait. And so Gail said, yeah, I said I got from Black Creek Farm. And, yeah, I think he's out. I think Midsummer Farm might have, Paw and, Persimmons, and they don't have ground nuts, but I believe when I last looked, she did still have some, Barbara and Midsummer Farm.
And you need two different varieties of pawpaws?
Well, yeah, you definitely need at least two so they could reproduce. I don't know about two different varieties, but you definitely need two to mate with each other.
Because somebody gave me two saplings, but they're the same variety. And then I heard that you needed different varieties.
Oh.
Anybody know?
I could be maybe, again, I'm not super knowledgeable on I hope not, but that could be true.
Where is Black Creek Farm?
Black Creek Farm, I tell you, I can't exactly remember where it was, but
But
yeah, I think it's
I-
definitely called Black Creek Farm.
But is it local?
No, it was like about an hour away.
No.
But again, I do believe Midsummer Farm, which is right in Warwick. I believe she has some.
Okay.
It's they have great stuff.
Isn't it you just need two trees, that the two,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah, I don't believe
if it's the same variety, that shouldn't be a problem. They just help each other, cross-pollinate each other a little bit.
Yeah, I believe that's.
I don't think two varieties is necessary, but maybe, I mean, if someone else knows better, let's hear it, but
I only know because I Googled it and they said two varieties,
Oh, okay.
but I don't, plus, it's really hard for me to dig a hole anyway. Yeah, so.
We
Yeah.
have pawpaws in the community orchard. And
Uh-huh.
I don't know what varieties they are, but we won them. So I don't know where they came from. But they do leaf out later than the other fruit trees.
uh-huh.
Yeah,
No,
I would. Yeah, I would. So you don't have them in the ground yet? You just have them as a.
I have them right now in a plastic bag, but because they're indigenous, I think we're all interested in propagating.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to do native things. But yeah, I could. I know. Who has Julia? She has some pawpaws as well. The Sustainable Warwick. So I could
Okay,
ask her.
that's a good idea.
How's it growing very nicely? They're a few years into it.
Okay.
All right, I believe we had. I don't know if anyone had any questions. Yeah, again, not too much is going on, but hopefully a few weeks we'll have a lot more growing. We planted some lettuce as well since then, but I do need to, between the COVID and the, seems like every Saturday, which is usually our work day, was freezing rain. So it's like, I need to really get going with stuff. Bill is next, I believe.
Okay. I missed 2 weeks ago. I've been down with a problem which I believe is Lyme disease. And I just wanted to mention that to people that Lyme ticks are out. They're out most of the winter as well. And right now the new ones are very small. They're very hard to see. And I must have picked one up in March sometime and I didn't catch it. And it became sort of a long-term COVID, over a month. And I usually get a rash. I didn't get a rash this time. And the main impacts, which I've never had before from Lyme, was a headache and double vision, which is rather odd. And I'm still not fully recovered. So anyway, just a word of warning to
Oh, sorry, Bill, just to let you know, when you're on it, we did have last meeting, we had a whole lesson on ticks and Lyme and your honor from
Okay.
Jim Hall.
good. Okay, I just want to mention that to just still be careful and be careful the entire time you garden. Okay, this is at a little angle, but you can pretty much see it. I have two photographs that show the garden, and I'm just going to give a very quick overview of the spring crops. That funny thing with the little holes, that bed there is potatoes that were planted about a week and a half ago. And I dig a hole 8 inches deep. I put the little tiny potato spud with the growths aiming upward and cover it with 1 inch or 2 of soil. And I'm still waiting for some sign of life. And nothing has come up because it's been rather cool. But anyway, you can see pretty tight spacing, about 1 foot apart. And that produces quite a few potatoes. Each hole will give me about, maybe if I'm lucky, maybe 8 pounds of potatoes. Other things that you can see all the way in the back, at the top, there's some, on the right side, there's strawberries, and all the way in the back, the strawberries, they are now blooming. So expecting to get some blueberries probably in June, maybe mid-end of June. That's a perennial, so I didn't plant those this year, but they're producing. And then the things that you can see in the middle top, well, not quite the middle, the upper on the left side, that's raspberries. And again, they were sitting there already, and they're now starting to not produce, but they're getting bigger. They're getting quite a bit of foliage. Right below that.
Bill,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt. On
Yeah.
on your raspberries, you gave us some of those plants last year, and we have them growing in too. Do you
Right.
cut them back or anything? Did you do anything to them in the
Oh,
spring?
yeah,
Or you just
I didn't cut them back in the spring. I cut them back in the fall. And I cut them to 2 to 3 feet, and I thinned them if they were too close together. So they were like, in a given little patch, there were maybe 3 or 4 decent stems that were good size. And then, of course, as they start to grow, new ones pop out of the ground, so you get new ones.
some of those came to my house.
Yes, I dig them out and I give them away. But again, you can see them in the middle left of this one. They're there. They don't require that much work, and these are sort of like everbearing or fall berries. They produce in the summer, but then they produce in the fall, and they actually produce almost through frost. So they're pretty productive. Other things, they can see some peas in the bed just coming up below the stakes in the middle. And I have 2 other pea beds in the back. It takes me 4 photographs to show the whole garden because it's too extensive to show it. And I take this from the porch deck. All the way in the back, you see some covers, and those are brassicas. And I put those out maybe 2 weeks ago. And I cover them to keep the white moths off of them, and also other insects. And the netting is very light, so I can leave that on through a good part of the summer. Okay, that's in the foreground here. You can see the garlic, and over on the left side in the middle, there's a little bed of spinach that I planted maybe 2 months ago, and it's now starting to produce. So anyway, enough for the spring garden. The big question, as was mentioned, is when do we put out the warm weather crops? Okay, and starting this Wednesday and for another week and a half, the temperatures are not going to go below 50 at night. And that is like the minimum temperature, I would say, that you would have to have in order to plant out warm weather crops. So you still have to worry until the end of the month, though, if there's a frost. So but even though you put them out, you have to be prepared. If it turns out to be 40 degrees at night, you might need to do some protection on the sensitive plants. So the sensitive plants are things that I grow are tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, beans, cucumbers, melons, watermelons, butternuts, corn, sweet potatoes, and basil. Those are the main things. And then I continue with the lettuce and chard throughout the summer. Those are pretty hardy. You can grow them in the spring, but you can also grow them, succession plant them and grow them over the summer. The thing to be careful of is when you transplant. So this is the way I transplant. First of all, the plants should be hardened. And if you don't know what that means, you better find out, because if they're not hardened, those sensitive plants are not going to do well when you put them out. That just means that you put them out gradually, a little bit each day, and you add time to try to get them used to the outside sun, the wind, and the temperatures. So they should be hardened up to a week. If you're lucky, you could try it half a week, and if the weather is right, probably that might be okay. I tend to plant late in the afternoon when it's not sunny, so you don't plant them directly out when it's very sunny. I water them immediately. I take a little piece of newspaper and wrap the stems of any individual plant that I put out, just to keep cutworms from coming and chopping them off. And you can use various things for that, but I find paper to work fine. And it gives them a little sturdiness as well, from wind and stuff like that. So if you wrap it, several times around the stem and put it in the ground about an inch and have it come out at least an inch out of the ground. And that should keep the bad cutworms away. Okay. If it's going to be sunny several days in a row after you plant, you need to be keeping watered at the minimal, but you may want to consider shade netting on the plants, just so they don't get too much sun right away. Or you can look for a couple of cloudy days or rainy days and plant them right before that, and then you wouldn't have to worry about shade netting. When you transplant, minimal root disturbance is really important. So if your plants have individual cups or individual pots or something like that, try to take them out with minimal root disturbance, push them out gently. And if you have to, and some people like to separate their things out at that time, but that gives a lot of root disturbance. And then you have to treat the plants even more carefully over time, because with the root disturbance, they're going to be more sensitive to sun. You got to keep them watered longer and things like that. So, okay. Mulch is good. So if you put them out and they're big enough, you can put some mulch around them. That also keeps them moist. And it's a good thing just to keep the weeds and moisture in. And ultimately, of course, to help them grow as the mulch decays. Okay, so other than that, they probably don't need supports yet, but you should have in mind what you're going to use for supports, because everything that you put out is going to need peppers, eggplant, tomatoes. Everything is going to need some kind of support at some point. So sometimes you can put that out at the same time you plant, but other times you can just put that on a little bit later. Okay, other than now, do you put them out on Wednesday, or should you wait another couple of weeks? Depends on how much risk you want to take. Okay, so if you're really feeling risky, put them out Wednesday, but be prepared to cover them up if something bad happens, like it gets really cold again. But you could wait another week or two, and the weather will probably be more uniform, as opposed to the kind of cold and warmth that we've been having back and forth and back and forth. This is a really late year in terms of having the weather settle down, as you know. Okay, any questions on that? Be glad to take them now. Yeah, Garrett?
Yes, Bill, how are you? Hope you're feeling better. The question that I have is, what you mentioned mulch. What is your go-to mulch that you're using to cover around your bed, your plants?
Okay, I use a lot of leaves. I used to have a supply of chopped leaves, which were great because they're very easy to put on and they don't blow away as readily and so forth. I don't have that source anymore. So I have leaf piles from the village, the bags of leaves, and I put them into a bin with wire around it so they don't blow away. And I take that out and I put that an inch or two of leaves around, And then they will still blow away unless I put something on top of them. And if it gets really windy. So I have straw and I just crumple up the straw and put the straw on top. And I have grass clippings as well from my, but not that many. I don't have a big lawn, so I use grass clippings as well. Those are the three things that I use the most. And what I find with hay is that you get weed seeds with hay, a lot of weed seeds
Yeah.
usually.
Yeah.
And straw even can be a problem because they have seeds too. And the last year I just had a lot of straw seeds. And I thought I was going to grow a straw forest by the end of the season. So, you know, there's no, I wish there was a perfect mulch, but those are the things I use. And I don't know if somebody else uses other things.
I want to talk about the leaf molting and the, I've got an electric leaf blower that also works in reverse and shreds leaves. As a matter of fact, I have an extra one of those. And if someone would want to make a donation to Grow Local Greenwood Lake of about $40, which is what I paid for it, I'd be happy to give it to them. So you get your old leaves and you run it backwards and you catch it in a bag, and it makes this really nicely shredded leaf.
Mhm. Does it work for kind of packed leaves that have been sitting around all winter, or the leaves have to be?
It works. The drier they are, the easier it works. The
Okay.
drier, so that's definitely a question. You really want to do your leaf management, preferably get them all mulch or shredded back in the autumn when you're getting them.
Mhm.
And then I still have a few bags sitting around, but they've been sitting in a dry place and I've been testing them, and I'm sure I'll get a chance to get them before too long. But to me, the leaf mulch is the best. It's just that, you know, you got to put a lot of it away in the previous autumn.
Yeah, I do. I have like 15 feet by about 6 feet by about 3 feet high is my
Wow.
mulch bed, the leaves.
The other
So-
thing you could do is run your mower over that. You know,
Yeah,
if you've got a
that's what
big
I'm
bed
doing.
like that.
That's what I'm planning on doing. But it's a pain in the neck to do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Gail?
I, you know, the tomatoes, the peppers, the eggplants, I get, you know, small plants, but things like, a lot of things I start from seed, the zucchinis, I mean, etc. Because I can't nurture plants because I'm not in any one place all the time. So I plant from seed. When should I put seeds in? I mean, I've put in the lettuces and the kale already, but things like zucchini or.
Well, I think you should probably have put them in already because each plant is a little different. I mean, tomatoes, you can start 4 or 5 weeks in advance. And most of the warm weather crops you can start, you know, like butternuts and zucchini grow pretty fast. So maybe 3 to 4 weeks might be enough for them. But so if you're going to look for the end of this month, you should get them in now to put them out.
The ground's not too cold for seeds.
Oh, you want to put them out as seeds in the ground? Okay, okay. I don't know how cold the ground is, but I have thermometers that I can measure it with. But it might be cold because it's been going down to 36 at night, 39 tonight. The ground may not be suitable right now in terms of temperature.
For seeds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I
Gail?
start them inside.
I can't start them inside. They
Yeah.
die because I can't give them tender, loving care.
Yeah, Michelle?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think Sarah always starts hers direct, right, Sarah?
Yeah, I start beans, squash, summer and winter, cucumbers, I mean, the peppers and tomatoes I start ahead, but I start all those others direct. And I would say it's too early to put them out now. The ground hasn't warmed up. And over the years, I've done little experiments where one year I started them inside and then I put them out. And it has to be warm out. Like I usually do those about the end of May, unless we get a real hot spell. And I found that the ones I direct seeded when the ground was warm caught up to the ones I started inside within 2 weeks. So I concluded it was a waste of time to start them inside. I didn't gain anything. But not this week. It's cold.
Yeah, thanks. That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? They'll probably rot.
Yeah.
They'll, you have plenty of time.
And now that I'm back.
Okay, well, that's perfect timing. It's 8 o'clock. Why don't we do a little famous shimmy in place, take a little break from our eyes and our computers just for a minute. And you can sit by the computer or pause, and I will be back in a minute. All righty, we're all rested up and ready to go. I think Lenny has joined us.
Hello.
Hello, and good. So I think we're gonna, when you get a chance, Kristen, we're gonna show the rest of the people who submitted some pictures.
Mhm.
And Lenny, if you want to tell us a little bit about your little setup, feel free.
Okay. Can you show the picture of the grow light on the tripod that I sent to you?
Isn't that it?
Okay. Just a minute.
Getting on.
Very high
Oh,
tech.
Okay. That's the tripod grow light, and it's a full spectrum light. And so I don't have too much room. So that allows me to just direct those 4 lights directly on what I'm growing there, right on my kitchen counter. So that it works pretty well for me. And now in the next picture, do you see the little tomato plants? If you notice the date on there, it's like I planted those seeds just 7 days ago, 6 days ago, and the little tomato plants are up already. And so I attribute that to the heating pad that I bought for underneath. I think the heat made a lot of difference so that they germinated more quickly. And now I started other seeds and they got very leggy and didn't look so good. But now that I have that grow light, it looks like they're going to be compact and nice and not leggy. I know it's late to finally be starting my tomato seeds, but oh well, it's like the best I could do. And let's see. Oh, there's the close-up of the control. Now you can change it so that you can put 1, 2, 3, or 4 of those lights on. And also you can set it for 4, 8, or 12 hours. So if you set it at 8 o'clock in the morning for 12 hours, it would shut off then at 8 in the evening. And the next day it will come on also at 8 in the morning. So it's a very easy control, and it just turns itself on and off at the same times each day. And so far I'm very happy with it. It is like red, white, and blue lights on each of those arms of the light. So it lights up like the 4th of July or Memorial Day. But I like having it so far. I think it's doing well for me. Okay, so that's it. Oh, and there I found the last thing I put in is I found the ad on Amazon in case anybody's interested. Okay, and
Thank
that's
you.
it.
Thank
Mhm.
you. It's very, very impressive. And Patricia, if you're there, if you want to give a little rundown on your particular setup.
Well, let me see. The pot with the larger seedlings in, those are tomatoes. There are also tomatoes in the little pots and peppers. And someone told me to plant marigolds. So I've got marigold seedlings there. And I also have a grow light, and I did start them with the heating pads underneath, but now they're not on the heating pads. But I still do use the grow lights when it's a dismal day. But I have started putting them out. I guess I'm starting to harden them up a little bit, but I shouldn't really put them outside until the end of the month by the sound of it, if I'm understanding correctly. And that's about it, really.
Yes, Bill was saying it's important to, a little bit at a time. The more you could prep, harden you, the more for the better. So,
Yeah.
Put them out a few hours, one day, a few more hours the next day. So, hopefully by the time you put them out for good, they're ready for it, as opposed to just
Okay.
doing it right away.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. I'm glad that came up.
Yeah, that's
you.
important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, likewise, those tomatoes that you have, you should probably transplant them into individual pots. Because if you try to transplant them when they're so close, you're going to be damaging the roots. So if you put them in individual pots now, by the time you actually put them out, they'll be well established.
Oh, good. Thank you.
And I did find a cute, using a fork. I got a sturdy plastic fork. I find that very useful for pulling out the seedlings. It was very, I think I saw it somewhere as a tip, and at least I found it very useful just to kind of scoop the fork in and pull it out. And when I put it into a larger pot, it worked really well for me.
Yeah,
I don't know if anyone has any other tricks. I know Bill says he just pulls them up by the tip, but I'm too shaky for that stuff. But the fork is good for me.
No, you don't pull them out like that, but you hold them by the tip, and you be very careful with the roots. That's
right. Even holding, yeah.
I would mention when you're transplanting those tomatoes are one plant that you can bury the stem and it helps the plant. A lot of plants, you don't want to do that, but tomatoes, get a deep pot and you can bury that stem up to where the larger canopy starting, and it'll develop roots all along, and you'll have a healthier, sturdier plant, which is what you want.
Oh, excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
When you plant them outside, you do the same thing. And if they're
Mhm.
really leggy, you lay them down.
Um, If the plants that I'm buying are root bound, because I don't know, I'm getting them from a Mennonite farmer in Pennsylvania, because I wanted these hybrid brandy wine grafted tomatoes, and I didn't know where to get them here. But if the roots are root bound, is it an idea to try to gently spread them out, or just put them in however they are in the pot?
I've had some people tell me they don't spread them out, and other people swear by spreading them out. I mean, personally, I at least rough them up a little bit, because I've seen ones that are really root bound and then they just stay in that circle. So I vote roughing them up, but that's an area of debate.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you should, loosen them up a lot and don't let them stay in a spiral.
Yeah,
But Sarah's a bit of a rough character, so you never know. She likes to
that's right. You never know.
like to rough things up a bit.
And then do you use Epsom salt? I heard that's good when I plant my tomatoes or eggplants.
I spray Epsom salts on them, not when I plant them. When
Oh,
I plant them, I use eggshells and a little manure. Some people put Epsom salts in the hole. I think some people put aspirin in the hole. I always throw a little goodie in the hole just for good luck.
okay. And
Garrett, did you have a question?
I did, about root bound plants and teasing them out. You're not pulling them apart, you're just trying to loosen the roots a little bit. Is that correct? I want to hear the methodology behind that.
Yeah, I would say that you want to loosen them, you don't want to just pull them too much. You want to loosen them up, just so they spread.
Right.
So,
Are you trying to get the dirt off of them as you're doing that, or?
you don't have to, no.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, thank you.
I think also we're talking about annual vegetable plants here. So they shouldn't be that root bound. I mean, I grow perennial flowers, for example. I buy perennial flowers and I'll get those sometimes, and they're chalked in a container that's just like all roots. And something hardy like a hosta, I'll just put a few slices in that to get it broken up. So it depends on what you're transplanting.
I know I did it a little early this year, but my herb garden got destroyed last year. And so I went and bought some herbs and transplanted them last weekend. And I knew I had a warm week to go through it. And they were pretty hardy plants, thyme, rosemary, some mint,
Yep.
couple of other things, and they seem to have taken without too much of a problem. But I found that they were a little bit root bound, and I was just teasing them out just a little bit as I was planting them, just to get them to flow properly, I guess. And then I watered them. We had rain for a couple of days and some heat, so it seemed to work pretty well.
No, that's good, because those plants have been growing for a much longer time. A tomato plant, grows into, a 3-foot plant within a few months. That those
Right.
thyme plants and herbs you buy are possibly a couple years old. Your mint, where did you put your mint?
Well, I put my mint in a. I wanted to go crazy because I put it in a place where there's not a lot of ground coverage and has a fair bit of shade. So I'm hoping that it takes and creates some ground coverage for me.
It will.
Good, I hope so.
Now, do you know that your rosemary has to come in the winter?
I didn't know that, and that's one of the reasons I think I lost that. I lost that. I lost time. I expected to lose the basil, so now I'm doing the basil in a pot, and hopefully I'll bring that in, and I'm going to get a grow light. So I want to get a basil tree going, like a little basil bonsai, and but I kept some other stuff too. So I'll bring the rosemary in next year. Maybe I
I
should.
would What I suggest is the rosemary, that you grow the rosemary in a container. How big is the rosemary plant you got? Like 4 inches or?
Yeah, 4 to 5 inches now.
Grow it in a container. I grow mine in a container and I set it out on the patio or, somewhere out in the sun all summer. It doesn't need that much water. And then I bring it in the winter. And they don't last forever, but I can usually keep one going for 3 or 4 years by bringing it in. But
Okay.
once it's in the ground and it's happy with the ground roots, it shocks it more. And it's harder to transplant it when it's got a big root ball. So just
Right.
and
Get it.
it's like- yeah.
I never knew that my rosemary dies every winter, but
Yes,
I
it
have,
will.
but I have a question again, because I'm not up here. Well, actually, I'm sitting in Brooklyn right now, but when I bring something in, how much water do they need in winter? Like I brought my lavender in and it died, but my lavender tends to die whether I leave it outside or inside. I have real problems with lavender, but I never know how much water to give something that I bring in during the winter.
I just give it enough to keep it alive. I keep it in a cool room and I water, the herbs are hard to tell because they don't necessarily wilt. But if I'd say once a week is plenty.
Okay, well, that I could do, yeah.
Yeah, but Garrett, I lost my time this year too. I don't know what went on, but I grow time like for years, and this year all over the place is dead.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happened. Normally time winter's over and
Yeah.
I had a problem. My sage went and that normally winter's over. So I don't know what happened. I think
I don't either.
outside, mine's outside a condo, and then I have the big garden at my parents' house. And one of the things that happened is I think the salt from the neighbor got on the garden. So this year I had plastic over it for the winter to make sure that none of the salt from their steps gets on my garden.
Right.
It was a very cold winter as well.
And it was cold, but you know what? My parsley made it all the way through and is now abundant.
Really?
Yeah.
My parsley's dead as a doornail.
Yeah, my parsley and sage made it.
My parsley and sage made it too.
Interesting.
Yeah, Garrett, I was going to recommend that you, if you felt like you were up for it, to buy a packet of basil seeds in succession. Sow your basil, because I find that, especially when it gets really hot, and sometimes it's a couple of early, really super hot summer days, it just tends to go to seed, and it just gets brown and, scraggly looking. And then I'm like, what happened to my basil? I had grand plans for it. So I always try to succession sow there.
Right. Well, I think we do that at my folks. I'm not doing that, but that herb ring, do you know about the herb ring that you can put on the table?
Yeah.
I think I get that too. So I have, for cooking. So I'll figure it out.
Okay, you want to do announce?
What's an herb ring?
Oh,
Sorry.
Oh, an herb ring is it's like a little growing pad that has a light around it, and it's like a little stand, and you can basically grow herbs on a tabletop with LED lights. They're on the internet somewhere.
Oh, okay. We could combine that with Lenny's light setup, and then we'll be set.
Yeah, totally.
it sounds like the Aero Garden that I have, which is a hydroponic kind of a thing, and it's got the lights similar to Lenny's. And so
Yeah.
I grow lettuce through the winter in the house with that. Okay, you want to do announcements?
If there are any announcements, I wasn't even aware.
Well, I just threw some in there, so maybe we should check it out. Hang on. And we want to see that cool graphic. So I just wanted to,
Yes,
let me,
yeah.
can I just say about No Mow May? Dan Mack still has, I think, 8 signs. So if anybody wants any of these signs for their lawn, you can pick them up at his house. You can call him if you need to work it out. The check has to be made out to Community Together, and just put a note on it that it's for Sustainable Warwick No Mow May. And I guess you could send it to Sustainable Warwick or give it to Dan. Either would be fine. And the cost is $12. That's our cost for the signs, nothing extra. Okay, go ahead, Chad.
I want to ask, is anyone doing No Mow May, whether they have a sign or not?
In the
Michelle.
back of my house, I am not the front. My wife, she won't let me, but I'm doing it in my backyard.
Actually, it rained enough, so I ended up doing No Mow April.
Yeah, I'm doing it. And, I have patients coming to my house. So I have a sign up that I ordered from probably China, which says, "Excuse the weeds, I'm feeding the bees," just in case they're questioning it looks beautiful. I've got creeping Jenny and dandelions and just all lengths of grasses. I do keep a path mowed after that very alarming Lyme presentation that runs from the stone path walkway to the greenhouse, to the vegetable garden, to the pond, to the garlic beds. But the rest is just wild. And I'm just trying to be okay with that.
In the past, I sort of let the creeping Charlie go, and I've heard of other people who did this. So now you said creeping Jenny. I wonder if that's another word for creeping Charlie, the purple one. But so now we have so much of it. It's like the grass isn't getting very tall, or well into May, and it's like not, a lot of the lawn is not very tall because all of the beautiful purple there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised. I find it very beautiful, and I don't think with the dandelions and the purple and the yellow, I think it's really beautiful.
Yeah, I like it. Who needs lawn?
I've never actually mowed the lot I own next to my house, and I just let it go. It's protected. They can't really see it from the street, but I went out there last week and started looking what was actually there. And I was finding a host of perennials, lower Hudson Valley perennials that I was finding online that were all just growing. They all naturalized back there. So I felt pretty good about that because I didn't do anything and it all came up.
Years ago, in the Sunday Times Magazine, Mark Bittman wrote a terrific piece about lawns and the history of lawns. And it started with, he decided to plant vegetables in his front lawn in suburbia, which made all his neighbors go crazy. But it was a great, starter for this article. But then he spoke that lawns are not natural, and that they became popular because of the idea in America, each man's house is his castle, and the landed gentry in England and their estates always had these huge lawns, which in England, the weather is perfect for grass. It just rains just the right amount. And, you have the sheep mowing the grass for you. But the gist of his article was that lawns never really made sense. And they certainly don't make sense, for environmental reasons. I just got back from South Carolina near the beach, and it's dry and sandy and everybody's trying to grow grass. So I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but the idea of each person having their mini castle with their mini lawn is based on this idea that came from England.
Yes, it's outdated.
So I walk down the road and I see these different lawns, and you're looking and say, "Oh, gosh, it looks such a neatly manicured lawn." It's like, yeah, but it has a certain ugliness to it, doesn't it? It's really something people need to sort of adjust their vision. What beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and what's really good out there. Definitely, definitely the law on the lawns. You know, the beauty is in the eye of the beholder when it comes to a lawn.
And those beautiful lawns have a lot of weed killer. But I do have a question. 2 years ago now, I decided to have a wildflower garden because there was really a difficult part of my property. It was on a slope and I cut my own grass, and the tractor was always kind of tilted like this, and it started to scare me. And I didn't get many wildflowers. I got a lot of weeds, but it was a perennial wildflower. And then a lot of grasses grew. And how do you cultivate a wildflower garden? I mean, this year I removed a lot of the very tall grasses that, obviously I don't cut those. I mean, I'm really failing in my wildflower garden.
Well, Gail,
Is
you
it
have to attend, on every other Monday, we're having a pollinator pathway meetings, which are the other side of the Zoom garden plot. So you might want to attend one of those. Bill Green is hosting those, where we talk about native pollinators, and yeah, it's funny. I'm actually being, knock on wood, successfully growing some native pollinators from seed. So that's very interesting, because there's such an opposite mentality of starting the warm weather stuff, because they have to be 90 days in the cold weather. So I had the seeds, I had them out in the cold as opposed to me protecting the tomato seedling. So it's interesting, but I'm getting a lot of stuff. And next Monday, if you want us to put you on the list, we talk a little bit more about wild, cultivating and focusing on also native pollinators. So that's something we want to promote.
Chad, is it the same format as this? I mean, I haven't been able to make it, but I have been starting a lot of native things from seed. And like you, I had to cold stratify them. So yes, it's very different. But the chat, is it the same kind of format? People are just.
Well, it's more like we're trying to start, I mean, this is just answering gardening questions and supporting people, our pollinator pathway is definitely much more of us trying to start something, like trying to get some type of strategy and philosophy, how we could spread this throughout, the Warwick Valley area. So, it's definitely much more in the early phases of people who show up to the meetings, and, a lot of times we're just discussing strategies, and like Bill Green is trying to turn his lawn into a natural meadow. I'm trying to work with the garden center over here, making a little pollinator pathway behind it. But I'm really not that knowledgeable with pollinators, so it's a little bit different than these meetings, because but we do have some very experienced people that show up to the meetings. Sometimes, again, we're early on, and we're trying to find our true mission statement. So you're welcome to join us.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And sorry, let's continue with the announcements. Our next meeting will be the 4th Monday, and I guess that'll be 7. Maybe we'll switch over to 8 o'clock in starting June. We go a little bit later when it stays light longer and people are in their gardens. And I don't know, Michael, do you want to talk about the Sustainable Warwick, the new meeting time and everything?
Yeah, so we meet at 7:30, and we just switched the 4th Wednesday of the month, and we are meeting in person at the Warwick Valley Community Center, but also via Zoom. And everyone's welcome to attend.
Yes, and what also there's well, I was gonna probably post this, but I think Pollinator Week is coming up. Sorry, let me see. I have it on my phone here. I think I took a picture of it. Oh yeah, Pollinator Week, June 20th and 26th. So then maybe that's something we'll focus on as far as, a little promotion week. And we met with the Warwick Valley Gardeners, who are a very, advanced group, and they're doing a lot of good work in the same. And we had a walking tour a few weeks ago. It was from Sonia Mason. So yeah, we're getting every aspect of growing stuff down. Any other questions before we wrap up our next episode?
Yeah, just real quick from me. Does
Yes.
anybody know why pill bugs would be taking off my seedlings at the stem in a similar way to what Bill described the leaf cutters do? I seem to have an infestation of the pill bugs, and everybody who hears that say, "Oh, wonderful! They do such great work in the soil." Well, not when they destroy my seedlings. I really have too many of them. Anybody got any idea? What should I do? I keep just watering, hoping I'll just rinse them away.
Pick them up and put them in your compost. That's a joke.
Yeah, too many.
Well, what is your what do you use for mulch?
Oh, different things. Leaf, mold. I use hay, rotted hay, compost.
Like how thick is your mulch? Is it like
Maybe they're in there wanting to eat the mulch because that's what they
Yeah.
do. They eat decaying material.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've also heard that, not mulching is like the death of soil. So how does one strike a balance here?
Perhaps wait till the
Well-
seedlings are a little bit bigger to mulch.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, sometimes I think if they're too, right, if you put something in there and they're too small, then sometimes they do seem to get.
Right.
So I think what's going on is I'm mulching while the soil is just lying fallow. And then I lift up the mulch and then plant, but they're still around.
Oh, yeah, they're in the mulch. I don't know, I would dig the mulch in, then plant, and then add, mulch after your plants have become somewhat established, because I use mulch for the summer months to keep the moisture in.
Okay.
I don't know if that to me is just a common sense answer. Bill may have a more scientific answer.
Well,
Thank you.
what I do sometimes is there's something called slug and bug stuff.
Sluggo.
And it takes care of slugs, but it also takes care of pill bugs. And if you might want to just put a little bit right around the plant, and this way you won't be damaging a lot of the pill bugs in most of your garden, but the ones that are eating your plant will probably not survive. And this stuff is organic, and it breaks down and fertilizes the plant, so
And
it's
it's
safe to
called what?
use.
Slugs?
It's there's different types. It's called garden pest bait is one thing that it's called, and the other thing, it's called slug and bug bait,
Okay. Thank you.
and they have it at most of the places, garden places.
Thank you. Good to know. I mean, I was thinking if they are particularly bad, they'll probably decimate whatever newspaper collar is around each seedling. Last year, I resorted to putting little plastic solo cups around each plant, and that looked very unattractive. But I was
Well-
desperate. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing. Perhaps I will try to look up some information, and ask around. Hopefully we can have your answer next time. But thank you for everyone for joining.
Chad, I think there
Yes.
was a question about dolomite. I thought I
Yeah,
saw
that
a
was-
question on the screen about dolomite.
Oh,
Yeah, that
I-
was me. I'd heard
I'm
that it
sorry, I
was
didn't
good.
notice.
Yeah, that's okay. I'd heard it was good for adding before you put your plants in. And I wondered if anybody had some comments. Have you used it? What do you think?
I think it's probably good to use. I don't use it myself, but just use it at the right proportions, whatever the recommendations are to put in. Don't
And-
use too much.
And are there specific plants that really like dolomite that would be important for?
I
Wouldn't be
thought it
like,
was tomatoes, was it, that I heard, or am I wrong?
that would be the question in my mind,
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. Have a great time. See you 2 weeks.
Happy
Okay,
gardening, everyone.
take
Okay.
care.
Happy
Bye-bye.
garden.
Great night. Bye.